Welcome back to Against the Grain podcast. Today we have a very special episode with Trip Lee. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
For a little context, Trip is a pastor, author, and pastor whose music has deeply impacted Christian hip-hop. He signed with Reach Records just after high school, and since then released 7 studio albums, toured the world, and shared the gospel through both music and ministry. So now, could you start us off with an icebreaker?
So, Trip, I got a little goofy icebreaker for you.
Okay.
If you could be part of any fictional world, what would it be and why?
Any fictional world? I think maybe I like Batman. Batman's my favorite superhero. I think Gotham seems like a very interesting, crazy place. Yeah, maybe I'd be now. Maybe that's a bad answer because it seems like things is a little wild. Yeah, it's a lot going on. But that'd be the best answer off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So let's just get into like your testimony and like the beginning of your walk with God. You going to youth group and even you preaching at 17 years old, just to come up with all that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and Dallas, would be a little bit different than the Northeast, especially when I was growing up, because there were a lot of churches everywhere and a lot of people who just assumed they was Christian. And so I also assumed I was a Christian from a really young age. Would get dragged to church by my parents. And then I started going to the youth group at the church, really just for social reasons. So I had assumed I was a Christian from a young age, repeated a prayer after the children's pastor, said the sinner's prayer. I don't think, sinner's prayer, God, I'm sorry, my bad, said all the things you're supposed to say. And I don't think that I was a Christian yet because I didn't understand what it meant for me to have sinned against a holy God. I don't understand what it really meant for Jesus to pay for my sins. It was just kind of empty words. And then I started going to the youth group when I was like 13 or 14 for social reasons. I was trying to holler at girls. And went to a summer retreat. And as I started to go, the Lord kind of pulled me in. Had a great youth pastor. One, he was like, "Can you stop trying to holler at all the girls? And also, here's some books, here's some time, spend time with me, and preach the gospel." And the Lord saved me from my sins, and then really quickly gave me a strong desire to know Him. I was reading the Word, my life was changing. I would get into it with my friends some too, because they're like, "Trip, what happened? You're a totally different person than you were. You came back after summer and you acting weird." Remember one time my homie was like trying to like look at a girl. He was like, "Hey, bro, you see?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm trying to chill." He was like, "Oh, why you acting so different, bro? You trying to be a super Christian?" And the Lord in that time, really gave me a strong desire to know Him and to grow. And was leading in the youth group. And my youth pastor asked me if I wanted to preach a sermon. And I didn't know how to do that, but I said I would love to. And they walked me through some of what that would look like. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity. That's stuff I learned when I was 17. My youth pastor and the senior pastor, who's still the senior pastor at that church in Dallas, told me, for instance, they said, "Hey, don't just jump around to 100 different texts. What if you chose one text? You understood that and preached that. What if you, instead of just having some thoughts and got up there, what if you wrote out every word?" You know what I'm saying? It's stuff that I still do to this day that has served me well. And so, one of the reasons I'm grateful y'all have good youth leaders is because my youth leaders poured into me in ways that still impact the way I serve people, the way that I follow Jesus right now. So I'm super grateful for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And also just going along with the testimony thing, and going into music, what about, how did you feel like with your calling with music and then being a pastor? How do you feel God called you to that and you knowing that it was Him calling you, not just your selfish ambition or whatever? Yeah.
I started rapping. I love music my whole life. My dad was a big music fan. He used to like put on music and be like, "Yo, you don't know what good music is." You know what I'm saying? Play me stuff.
Who are you listening to?
When I was a little kid, so when my dad would play me stuff, he was playing me Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, The Goats, stuff that later I was like, "Dad, you was right. This is better." But now when I was a little kid, I just loved all hip hop and R&B. When I was first starting to rap a lot, Jay-Z, Outkast, people who were not only good at rap but were lyricists. I remember I would like look at lyrics. I'm like, dang, that's like poetic. Like that's a double entendre. It's like made me want to like write. And then as I became a Christian, my youth pastor would try to put me on Christian rappers. I'm like, I do not want to listen to no Christian rap. Get out of here. And then there was some dudes I found that were actually, now, to be honest, there's a lot of stuff I heard CDs I bought that were not good. It was not very good. It was harder to find good Christian hip hop when I was a teenager. But there were some dudes, cross movement, who were really good. That really made me think, oh, I can be good at rap and talk about Jesus in ways. And so, yeah, I started rapping in my church. A little bit, I wasn't good. Took me a while to get good. But the ways that the music that I listened to impacted me, there was stuff I was learning about who God was from music, from rappers. And I'm like, dang, if I could use my music to help people to know God, to help people to see the world more clearly. And there were dudes who I'm like, he's so cool. He knows the Bible so well. I want to be like that. This had a deep impact on me. And I wanted to impact people in a similar way. So, and God has been very gracious. My first album, I met some guys when I was 15, 16, who were like, hey, we want to pour into you, help you understand the Bible better. And I ended up signing a record deal as a record label started when I was senior in high school. Recorded my first album when I was senior in high school, came out right after I graduated. Yeah, and I'm very grateful for that.
That was
and put out a lot since then. What was you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
You did that like right after high school, which is like
Yeah.
kind of like that transitional period that we're in right now.
Yeah.
So, what was that like, jumping from like school to a career so quickly and so young?
That's a good question. One, it was very cool because my dream, since I loved rap, it wasn't as easy to record back then either. Now I recorded stuff in my room all the time, but it wasn't good. It wasn't as easy to make good recordings. So like my dream had been to go to a studio, to get signed to a record, like have a label that would pay for my album and like buy beats. So I don't have to have these horrible beats that I just found from other people who not good. So, like my senior year of high school, I'm like finishing geometry class, and then I'm getting in my car, driving to the studio to record my album. Felt like a dream come true. And I was super grateful. And I didn't know, it was going to turn into what it is. I didn't know I was going to travel the world. I didn't know I was going to provide for my family. I didn't know all of that, but it was amazing. And to get to travel all over the place, all over the world, rapping about Jesus is not something I expected, but I'm very grateful for. And I went to college still right after that, to Bible college. And my wife would be like, oh, I heard that some rapper was coming to school. I thought you was going to be arrogant. But yeah, so it was an interesting experience for me. But I love how it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so about your chronic fatigue syndrome, that is a huge part of your life, especially, and you're at about like 20 you got it, and how it just changed your life dramatically. You always say, you've said a couple of times, that was the hardest part of every part of your life. Yeah. And you even wrote a song, Sweet Victory, about it, talking about it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think one of the things I probably didn't realize, how old are you?
17.
18, yeah. So one of the things that I think I didn't realize when I was 17 or 18 is, I thought, there's some stuff I don't understand, but if I make this good decision, I do this good thing. I try to be, even in terms of faithfulness to Jesus, I'm like, if I'm faithful to Jesus, I do this, then this will happen, then this will happen. And for me, God did a lot of stuff very early on in my life. And there are ways that we don't understand how trials and suffering will jump in and interrupt our stories in some ways. And we have less control over how things will go than we think. So when I'm in my second year of school, I get back. It was the summer after I went on my first tour ever, like tour around the whole country all summer. With all my Christian hip-hop heroes. I get back to school, I'm tired, and I'm sleeping 18 hours a day, I'm struggling, and I'm tired the rest of the time, and doctors don't know what's going on. And that was a big shift in my life where I could no longer really depend on my body to be strong enough to do the stuff I had always done. And so Scripture's really clear that we're not strong enough to do things on our own. In the Psalms it says, unless the Lord builds a house, the builders labor in vain. Unless God is putting these bricks up, we can keep putting bricks up all we want, but we cannot build without him. But for someone like me who has an illness like this, it really exposed me really quickly that we just have this illusion that if we just do the right things will happen. If we do ABC, then we're in control of everything. And so that was a big shift in my life. And it continues to be the hardest part of every part of my life. It has taught me to trust God more. It has made me more dependent on him. It has made me more humble. It's helped me to understand other people better, which I'm really grateful for. My song, Sweet Victory, maybe one of my favorite songs that I've done, and the one that probably because of the feedback I get from it so often, people saying, my mom was dying of cancer, she listened to that every day. I was about to take my life. Me listening to this song helped me to hold on to hope. And I think one of the reasons is because I'm trying to be transparent. I think people think either God is good or life is really hard. It's hard for people to think life is really hard and God is really good at the same time. What I'm trying to communicate in that song is even as with my health, it looks like loss after loss after loss, my victory is in Jesus. Jesus literally defeated my greatest enemies. And there's hope that I have in Jesus that cannot be taken away from me. My health can be taken away from me. My hope can be taken away from me. My life can be taken away from me. My hope cannot be taken away from me because the strongest being in all of the universe, God himself, is the one who holds my hope, and you can't pry it out of his hands. And so I think that if I was like, if people are like, you only get to leave one message with the world, outside of that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, you only get to leave one thing. It would be life is hard, but God is good, and hope in him can't be taken away. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's so easy to believe if I do all the right things and I'll get what I want, but God never promised that.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question I have is how do I approach peers who maybe don't believe in God but are battling sickness or pain or chronic illness? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that can kind of help people sometimes who don't really feel that they need God or don't believe in God, one of the things that can help is seeing how much we can't really depend on ourselves as much as we think we can. And I think all of us want something rock solid that we can hold on to. And when we see how empty friends can be, family can be, money can be, job can be, even our health can be, I think it opens us up to the fact that, I desperately need something that's stronger than the stuff that I have around me. And when we remind them that, hey, there's a God in Scripture who's not saying, hey, perform really good and I'll let you in my family. There's actually a God that's saying, hey, you're never going to perform good enough, so you don't have to prove yourself. Because one of the things that happens with health is, even for me, it's something I battle with, is like, man, I really want to blah, 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 but I can't. I can't get my body to do ABC. And I want people to accept me. I want people to respect me. And there's a God in the heavens that's like, hey, in all of your mess and all of your weakness, I want you to be a part of my family, and I receive you if you'll turn and trust in me. I think sometimes that rock bottom is the place where people are more open to hearing about God.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of our episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday night for youth group at 6:30. See ya.